Leave, now. My fiancé didn't raise his voice. He didn't squeeze my hand or look panicked. He just leaned in close enough that I could feel his breath near my ear and said it like a quiet instruction, like something that didn't need to be repeated. We were standing 10 feet from the dance floor. 5 minutes earlier, my brother and his bride had cut the cake. Everyone had clapped. My mother had cried. My father had made a toast that went on too long like he always did. It was a good night. A simple, honest, small-town kind of wedding in Lancaster County. Nothing flashy, just warm lights, folding chairs, and people who'd known each other for 30 years. And then he said it. Leave, now. I turned to look at him expecting a smile, maybe a joke. But Daniel didn't joke like that. Not in that tone. What I whispered. I'll explain in the car. That was all he gave me. No urgency in his voice, no fear, just certainty. I glanced around the room. My brother Mark was laughing with a group of his friends near the bar. His new wife Emily was talking with my aunt near the cake table, brushing icing off her fingers. My mother was refilling coffee cups, insisting people take more pie. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Daniel, what's going on? I asked, softer now. He didn't answer right away. He just looked across the room, not at anyone in particular, but like he was measuring something invisible. Then he met my eyes again. You really didn't notice, he said. That question stayed with me. Even as I picked up my purse. Even as I walked past my mother who called out, "Don't go far, we're about to do the bouquet toss." Even as I smiled and said, "I'll be right back," like I was just stepping out for air. Daniel didn't touch me as we walked out. He didn't rush me either. But he stayed close, just close enough that I felt guided. Outside, the night air was cool, the kind of late September evening that carries the smell of dry leaves and distant wood smoke. The parking lot was half full, gravel crunching under our steps. He opened the passenger door for me. I got in. Still, he said nothing. The silence stretched as he walked around the car, got in, and started the engine. No radio, no small talk, just the low hum of the tires as we pulled onto the county road. I waited. 5 minutes passed. 10? Finally, I said, "Daniel, you're scaring me." He kept his eyes on the road. "Good," he said quietly. "That means you're paying attention." That wasn't like him. Daniel was calm always, thoughtful, measured. In the 2 years we'd been together, I'd never seen him rattled. He worked in government analysis, or at least that's what he'd told my parents. I knew better than to ask too many questions. But I also knew he wasn't dramatic. Which meant this, whatever this was real. "I need you to think back," he said. "Tonight, the reception. I've been thinking about it since we left." "No," he said, "not like that. Slow down, think about the people, the details." I leaned my head back against the seat. The reception hall. The lights strung across the ceiling. The old wooden floors that creaked when people danced. Mrs. Carter from down the street bringing her famous apple pie. My cousin Luke trying to fix the speaker system. It was all so ordinary. "I don't know what you want me to say," I admitted. He exhaled softly. "That's what I was afraid of." The road curved past a row of cornfields, now just dark silhouettes under the moonlight. I watched them pass, feeling something tighten in my chest. "You're going to have to tell me something," I said. "You can't just pull me out of my brother's wedding and expect me to sit here quietly." He nodded once. "I'm not asking you to sit quietly," he said. "I'm asking you to stay safe." "Safe? From what?" I turned in my seat facing him. "My brother is inside that building," I said. "My parents, my whole family. If something's wrong." "If something's wrong," he interrupted gently, "being there won't help them." That stung more than I expected. What does that mean? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowed the car as we approached a stop sign, then turned onto a quieter road, one that led away from town. "I noticed 3 things tonight," he said finally. I held my breath. First, he said there was a man near the back wall, mid-50s, gray suit, didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't talk to anyone. I frowned. "I don't remember anyone like that." "That's the point," he continued. "Second, your brother checked his phone 12 times in under 20 minutes, always stepping away when he did." "That's not unusual," I said. "He's always been—" "Not like that," Daniel said. "Not at his own wedding." I fell silent. He was right. Still. "And third?" I asked. He hesitated. "Your sister-in-law," he said, "Emily." "What about her?" "She's not who she says she is." The words landed heavier than anything else he'd said. That's not funny, I said, my voice sharper now. I'm not joking. You've met her twice. I've observed her longer than that. I stared at him. What are you saying? I asked slowly. He finally glanced at me just for a second. I'm saying he said that tonight wasn't just a wedding. The car rolled forward into the darkness ahead. It was a setup. My hands went cold. For a moment I couldn't speak. All I could see was my brother's face laughing by the bar, my mother wiping her eyes, my father raising his glass. Normal? All of it had looked so normal. You're wrong, I said, but it came out weaker than I intended. I hope I am, Daniel said quietly. Neither of us spoke after that. The road stretched on empty and silent. And somewhere behind us, the lights of the reception hall grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared completely. I didn't know it yet. But that was the last moment my life felt simple. We didn't go home right away. Daniel drove another 10 minutes past the edge of town before pulling into a small gas station that sat alone at the corner of two empty roads, the kind of place that stayed open all night because truckers needed coffee and somewhere to stretch their legs. He parked under a flickering light. The engine idled for a moment before he shut it off. Still neither of us moved. You can call your mother, he said at last. Just don't tell her where you are. I blinked at him. That's your advice. It's the safest option right now. I stared down at my phone in my lap. For a long moment I didn't touch it, because something in me already knew if I called I wouldn't get a straight answer. Still I pressed her name. It rang twice. Sweetheart, my mother said, her voice a little too bright. Where did you go? We were just about to... I stepped out, I said. I needed some air. A pause. You left the reception, she asked softer now. Just for a bit. Another pause. I could hear voices in the background, laughter, someone calling out for more coffee, the clink of dishes. It sounded exactly like it had 10 minutes ago. Normal. Is everything okay? I asked. Of course it is, she said quickly. Why wouldn't it be? I glanced at Daniel. He was watching me, not tense, not impatient, just attentive. I don't know, I said. You sound tired. Well, it's been a long day, she said with a small laugh. Weddings will do that to you. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Is Mark around? I asked. He stepped outside a few minutes ago, she said. Probably needed a breather. You know how he gets. My chest tightened. Outside. Did he say where he was going? I asked. No, honey, just outside. Why? I swallowed. No reason, I said, just checking. Well, don't stay out too long, she said. Your father wants to do one more toast. I'll be back soon, I said automatically. But even as I said it, I knew I wasn't going back. Love you, she added. I love you too. I ended the call and set the phone down slowly. She doesn't know, I said. Daniel nodded once. Or she does, he said, and she's pretending she doesn't. That hit harder than anything else. My mother doesn't lie, I said. He didn't argue. He just let the silence sit between us. After a moment, I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. Okay, I said, let's go through it again. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. I could feel him listening. The man in the gray suit, I said slowly. Where exactly was he standing? Back wall, Daniel said. Near the exit. Clear line of sight to the main room. I pictured it. The hall had two exits, one near the kitchen, one near the back wall. If someone stood there, they could watch everyone come and go without being noticed. I thought he was part of the catering staff, I said. He wasn't. How can you be sure? Because he never moved when they did. I opened my eyes. That was true. The staff had been busy refilling drinks, clearing plates, moving trays. Anyone standing still that long would have stood out, if I'd been looking. But I hadn't. Okay, I said. Mark and his phone. Daniel nodded slightly. He wasn't just checking messages, he said. He was receiving updates. From who? I don't know yet. I let that settle. Mark had always been private. Even as a kid, he kept things to himself. But this was different. This is his wedding, I said. Who takes calls like that on their wedding night? Someone who's waiting for something, Daniel said. The words sent a chill through me. Waiting for what? I looked down at my hands. They were trembling now. Emily, I said. Daniel didn't respond right away. What about her? I asked. She was watching the room, he said. She's the bride, I said. Of course she was watching the room. Not like that, he said. Not for reactions, for timing. I frowned. Timing of what? He hesitated again. And this time I noticed it. You know more than you're saying, I said. He met my eyes. Yes, he said. Then tell me. I can't, he said. Not yet. Frustration flared in my chest. Daniel. I need you to trust me, he said, his voice calm but firm. I looked away. That was the problem, wasn't it? I did trust him. But I trusted my family too. Or at least I thought I did. I pressed my fingers against my temples, trying to steady my thoughts. Emily grew up in Harrisburg, I said slowly. She works in accounting. She met Mark 2 years ago. That's the story Daniel said. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means I couldn't verify any of it, he said. I stared at him. You're telling me my brother married someone whose background you can't confirm. I'm telling you, he said carefully, that parts of her background don't line up. That doesn't mean she's... I didn't say she was anything, he interrupted gently. I said something's off. I looked out the window. The gas station light buzzed faintly overhead. A truck pulled in, headlights sweeping across the lot before cutting off again. Everything felt suspended, like the world was holding its breath. I keep thinking about something I said after a while. What? The way she looked at me, I said. Earlier tonight. Daniel waited. It was right before the cake, I continued. We were standing near the table and she just stopped talking for a second. And she looked at me like she was trying to decide something. Daniel's expression didn't change. What did you do? He asked. I smiled, I said. I thought she was nervous. And now, I shook my head slowly. Now I'm not so sure. Silence settled over us again. This time it felt heavier. More real. I don't understand, I said quietly. Why my family? Why Mark? Daniel leaned back in his seat, his eyes still on me. I don't know all the answers yet, he said. But I know enough to say this. He paused. And for the first time since we left the reception, I saw something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Concern. Whatever is happening, he said, it didn't start tonight. I swallowed. And it's not going to end tonight either. The words lingered in the air. I looked down at my phone again. No missed calls. No messages. Nothing. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. And for the first time in my life, I started to wonder if the people I trusted most were the ones I understood the least. We left the gas station just after midnight. Daniel didn't ask where I wanted to go. He already knew. Home, he said. I hesitated for a second, then nodded. Home wasn't far, 15 minutes down the same road we'd taken 100 times before. A modest ranch house my parents had lived in for over 30 years. The porch light was always on. The mailbox still had my father's name painted in careful block letters. It had always felt steady, reliable, uncomplicated. Tonight it felt like a place I wasn't sure I recognized anymore. We didn't talk much on the drive back. Not because we didn't have things to say, but because every word felt like it might tip something over. When we pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. No cars. No lights. They're still at the reception, I said quietly. Daniel nodded. That gives us a window. A window. The way he said it made my stomach tighten. We got out of the car. Gravel crunched under our feet. The night had gone still, no wind, no distant traffic. Just that quiet you get in small towns after midnight when everything feels paused. I unlocked the front door. Inside, the house smelled faintly of coffee and furniture polish. The same as always. For a moment, I just stood there. This is ridiculous, I said under my breath. I grew up here. Daniel didn't push. He stayed back, letting me take the lead. I stepped inside. The living room looked exactly the way it had that morning. My father's chair angled toward the television, a folded newspaper on the side table, my mother's knitting basket near the couch. Nothing out of place. Nothing obvious. Start with what you know, Daniel said quietly from behind me. I nodded. What did I know? I knew my brother had been different these past 2 years. Not dramatically, not in a way you could point to and say, there it is. Just subtle shifts. He visited less. He answered questions with shorter answers. He always seemed like he had somewhere else to be. I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen. Mark moved out 5 years ago, I said. Got his own place in Harrisburg. Daniel followed, keeping a respectful distance. But he was here a lot more lately, I added. Helping with the wedding, I guess. Or something else, Daniel said. I opened a drawer near the sink. Bill's takeout menu's rubber bands. Nothing unusual. I never thought twice about it, I admitted. That's how it works, Daniel said. I paused. What does that mean? He leaned against the counter, arms loosely crossed. It means most people don't notice patterns unless they're looking for them, he said. And even then, they don't always want to see what's there. I looked down at the counter. He wasn't talking about strangers. He was talking about me. I trusted him, I said quietly. I know, he replied. That was the hardest part. Not anger, not fear. Just that simple, steady belief I'd carried my whole life that my brother was someone I could rely on. I moved down the hall to my old bedroom. The door creaked slightly as I pushed it open. Everything was the same. My high school books on the shelf, the quilt my grandmother had made, a photo of Mark and me at the county fair, both of us laughing, sunburned and younger than we realized. I picked up the frame. We used to share everything I said, when we were kids. Daniel didn't interrupt. If something went wrong, he told me. I continued. If he got into trouble, I was the first to know. I set the photo back down. So when did that change? I asked, more to myself than to him. Daniel answered anyway. Probably not all at once, he said. It usually doesn't. I nodded slowly. That made sense. You don't wake up one day and realize everything's different. It happens in pieces. A missed call here, a half-truth there. A moment you ignore because it's easier than asking questions. I walked back into the hallway. There was one thing, I said. Daniel straightened slightly. What? About a year ago, I said. Mark asked Dad for money. For what? He didn't say, I admitted, just said it was temporary, an investment. And your father? He gave it to him, I said, no questions asked. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. How much? I hesitated. More than we had to spare, I said. That had bothered me at the time. But I'd let it go. Because that's what families do. They trust. They don't dig. They don't assume the worst. I should have asked more questions, I said. Daniel shook his head. No, he said gently. You did what most people would do. That doesn't make it right. No, he agreed, but it makes it human. I leaned against the wall, feeling the weight of that settle in. Human. Flawed. Willing to look the other way when it's someone you love. Emily came into the picture around that time, I said after a moment. Daniel's attention sharpened. Right after I added, maybe a few months later. Did your brother introduce her? Yes, I said, at Thanksgiving. I remembered it clearly now. She'd been polite, quiet, well put together. My mother had liked her immediately. My father had said she was good for Mark. And I hadn't thought much of her at all. She didn't talk about her past much, I said slowly. I just assumed she was private. Daniel didn't respond. But I could feel the shift in the room. That was a choice, I said, realizing it out loud. Yes, he said. Not an accident. Not a coincidence. A choice. I rubbed my hands together, trying to steady myself. This doesn't make sense, I said. He's not the kind of person who gets mixed up in something like this. Daniel didn't argue. But he didn't agree either. People don't always fit the version we have of them, he said. I let out a slow breath. That's a polite way of saying I might not know my own brother. It's a realistic way, he said. We stood there for a moment, the quiet pressing in around us. Then from somewhere down the hall I heard it. A soft vibration. I turned my head. That's not my phone, I said. Daniel was already moving. The sound came again, faint but steady. We followed it to the guest room. The door was slightly open. Inside the room was dark. Daniel reached for the light switch. The room came into view. Neat bed, closed curtains, nothing out of place. But the sound, it was coming from the dresser. I stepped closer, opened the top drawer, and there it was. A phone. Not mine. Not my parents'. A second phone. It buzzed again in my hand. I stared at it. Mark left this here, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Daniel didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because in that moment, I understood something I hadn't been willing to admit before. This hadn't just been happening around my family. It had been happening inside it. And somehow, I'd missed every sign. The phone kept vibrating in my hand. Not a loud ring, not even a chime. Just that quiet, steady buzz like it didn't want attention, only confirmation. I looked down at the screen. No name. Just a number. Unknown. It's locked, I said. Daniel stepped closer, his expression calm but focused. Let it go to voicemail, he said. I hesitated. Shouldn't we? Not yet, he said gently. Right now we watch. The phone stopped vibrating. The screen went dark. For a moment nothing happened. Then almost immediately it lit up again. Same number. Calling back. I swallowed. That's not normal, I said. No, Daniel agreed, it's not. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering near the answer button. Whoever that is, I said, they're expecting him to pick up. Daniel nodded. And they're not used to being ignored. The call ended again. This time a message notification followed. I looked up at Daniel. Read it, he said. It's locked. He held out his hand. Let me see. I passed him the phone. He studied it for a moment, then angled it slightly so the notification preview was visible under the screen light. Just enough to read a few words. Where are you? It's happening now. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? I asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. He handed the phone back to me. It means whatever this is, he said quietly, it's already in motion. I felt my pulse in my throat. Tonight, I asked. Yes. The word hung between us. I looked around the room again, the neat bed, the untouched dresser, the quiet familiar walls. This house. My parents' house. And now, a hidden phone in the guest room drawer. How long has this been here? I asked. Daniel didn't speculate. Long enough, he said. I set the phone down carefully on the dresser like it might break. Or explode. Or tell me something I didn't want to hear. We need to turn on the news, Daniel said. I blinked. What? If something is happening tonight, he said, there's a chance it's already being reported. I nodded slowly. That made sense. Too much sense. We moved back into the living room. I picked up the remote with hands that didn't quite feel steady anymore and turned on the television. The screen flickered to life. Local news. A late-night segment. Weather first. Always weather. I almost laughed at that. Storm systems moving across the state, cooler temperatures overnight, nothing unusual. Nothing urgent. Give it a minute, Daniel said. I didn't sit. I stood there, arms folded, watching the screen like it might suddenly shift into something else. Then it did. The anchor's tone changed. Subtle but different. We're getting reports tonight, she said, glancing down at her notes of an ongoing federal investigation connected to financial irregularities in the Harrisburg area. My breath caught. Daniel didn't move. The anchor continued. Authorities have not released names at this time, but sources indicate the investigation may involve multiple individuals and businesses connected through a network of shell accounts. Shell accounts. I felt the room tilt slightly. They're saying it started over a year ago, I said, my voice barely audible. Daniel nodded once. That tracks. The report went on, careful, measured, avoiding speculation. No names? No arrests. Just the outline of something bigger than a simple mistake. Something planned. Something sustained. I turned off the TV. I couldn't listen to it anymore. This is Mark, I said. It wasn't a question. Daniel didn't answer. But he didn't need to. This is what you saw tonight, I continued. The phone, the man in the gray suit, Emily. Yes, he said quietly. I pressed my hands against the back of my neck, trying to think. Trying to breathe. My parents, I said suddenly. Do they know? Daniel considered that. I think they know part of it, he said. Maybe not all of it. They didn't say anything I said. My mother sounded normal. People can sound normal when they're protecting something, he said. That hit deeper than I expected. Protecting something. Or protecting someone. I walked to the window and looked out at the dark yard. This house had always been a place where things were said out loud, where problems were talked through even when it was uncomfortable. Or at least that's what I'd believed. When did it start? I asked. Daniel stepped closer, but not too close. Probably small, he said. Something that didn't seem like a big deal at the time. Like borrowing money, I said. Yes. Or not asking questions. He didn't respond. But the silence said enough. I turned back toward him. You said tonight wasn't just a wedding, I said. That it was a setup. He nodded. I believe it was a meeting point, he said. A way to bring people together under a legitimate reason. My chest tightened. Mark's wedding. Yes. I shook my head slowly. That doesn't make sense, I said. Why risk something like that at your own wedding? Because no one expects it, Daniel said. It's the perfect cover. The logic of it made my stomach turn. Family. Celebration. Trust. All of it used as a shield. And Emily, I asked. He hesitated again. This time longer. She's connected, he said. To what? I'm still putting that together. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. This can't be real, I said. But it was. Every piece of it. The phone in my hand. The message on the screen. The report on the news. The quiet certainty in Daniel's voice. It was all real. And it had been happening right in front of me. For months. Maybe longer. I walked back down the hall to the guest room. The phone was still there. Silent now. Waiting. I picked it up again. For a long moment I just held it. Then I turned back to Daniel. What happens now, I asked. He met my eyes. That depends, he said, on what you want to do. I thought about that. About my brother. About my parents. About the version of my family I'd held onto for years. And the version that was starting to take shape in front of me now. I want the truth, I said. Daniel nodded slowly. Then we're going to have to face it, he said. Not run. Not ignore. Not pretend. Face it. I looked down at the phone one more time. Then back at him. Okay, I said. My voice was steadier now. Stronger. Let's find out what I didn't notice. I didn't sleep. Daniel offered to stay in the living room, said he'd keep watch, but I knew neither of us would really rest. The house felt different now, like the walls were holding their breath waiting for something to happen. Around 3 a.m., I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. The second phone lay in front of me quiet since the last message. Every so often I'd glance at it, half expecting it to light up again. It didn't. Daniel stood by the window, arms crossed, looking out into the dark yard. They'll be back soon, I said. He nodded. Probably. Do we tell them everything I asked? That depends on what they tell you first, he said. That made sense. Still, it didn't make it easier. By the time the first hint of morning light crept through the curtains, I heard it, the familiar sound of tires on gravel. My parents' car. My heart started to pound. Daniel didn't move. Let me lead, I said. He gave a small nod. The front door opened. My mother stepped in first, heels in one hand, hair slightly undone. My father followed, jacket slung over his shoulder, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. They both froze when they saw me. You're home, my mother said, her voice caught somewhere between relief and confusion. I am, I replied. My father's eyes moved past me, landing on Daniel in the corner. Daniel, he said slowly, didn't expect to see you here. I didn't expect to be here, Daniel said calmly. That was all. No explanation. No tension. Just truth. My mother set her shoes down carefully. You left the reception, she said, looking at me again. You said you'd be right back. I changed my mind. Another pause. Something in her expression shifted just slightly. Enough that I noticed. Is everything all right? She asked. There it was. The question. Simple. Familiar. And suddenly it felt heavier than anything else in the room. I took a breath. That depends, I said, on whether you're going to tell me the truth. My father straightened a little. What kind of question is that, he asked. The kind that deserves an answer, I said. Silence. My mother looked at my father. My father didn't look back. That was the first sign. I saw the news, I said. My mother's face paled. My father exhaled slowly. Then you know there's an investigation, he said. I know more than that, I replied. I walked over to the table and picked up the phone. This was in the guest room, I said, holding it up. My mother's eyes widened. My father didn't react right away. He just stared at it. Whose is that, I asked. No answer. Dad, I said softer now, whose phone is this? He looked at me. Really looked at me. And for the first time in my life, he didn't try to soften the truth. It's Mark's, he said. My chest tightened. I figured, I said. My mother sank into a chair. Oh God, she whispered. How long, I asked. My father rubbed his face with one hand. Too long, he said. That's not an answer. No, he admitted, it's not. I set the phone back down. Then give me one. Another silence. He glanced at my mother again. She shook her head slightly like she didn't want him to say it out loud. But he did. About a year, he said. The words landed hard. A year. All that time. All those dinners. All those conversations. Doing what I asked. He hesitated. Business deals, he said. Illegal ones, I said. He didn't argue. Yes. My mother started crying quietly. I told him it was a bad idea, she said. I told him. But you didn't stop him, I said. She looked up at me, hurt flashing across her face. How was I supposed to stop him, she asked. He's a grown man. You could have told someone, I said. Who? She shot back. The police, your brother. The room went still. I looked at my father. You knew, I said. He nodded once. I knew enough, he said. Enough to do something. I thought it would pass, he said. There it was. The sentence that had been sitting under everything. The one Daniel had predicted without even hearing it. We thought it would pass. I let out a slow breath. That's not how this works, I said. I know that now, he said quietly. But you didn't then. Number. The honesty in his voice made it harder to stay angry. But not impossible. What about Emily, I asked. My father's jaw tightened. She's involved, he said. How? She introduced him to the people he's been working with. I felt something shift inside me. She planned this, I said. I don't know what she planned, he said. But she's not who she said she was. I looked at my mother. You knew that too. She shook her head quickly. No, I swear I didn't know she said. I didn't ask. That hurt in a different way. Not deception. Avoidance. I thought if I stayed out of it, she said, tears running down her face, it wouldn't touch us. I nodded slowly. I thought the same thing, I said. Silence settled over the room. Heavy. Real. Where is he? I asked. My father hesitated. Then he answered, I don't know. I studied his face. He wasn't lying. For once there was nothing hidden there. Just exhaustion. And regret. I'm going to find him, I said. My mother shook her head immediately. No, you're not, she said. You're not getting involved in this. I'm already involved, I replied. You don't understand what this is, she said. I understand enough, I said. Daniel stepped forward slightly. Not interrupting. Just present. That's not what worries me, he said calmly. I turned to him. What does... You still think this is about what your brother did, he said. I frowned. It is. He shook his head slightly. It's also about what everyone else chose not to do. The room went quiet again. Because he was right. This wasn't just about Mark. It was about all of us. What we saw. What we ignored. What we told ourselves was probably nothing. I looked at my parents. Really looked at them. Not as the people who raised me. But as people. Flawed. Human. Afraid. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen, I said. My voice was steady now. I'm not going to look the other way. My father nodded slowly. I wouldn't expect you to, he said. My mother wiped her eyes. Just be careful, she said. I picked up the phone again. I will, I said. But for the first time since this all started, I knew something for certain. Careful wasn't the same as silent. And I was done being silent. Morning settled in slowly. The kind of pale, quiet light that makes everything look softer than it really is. My mother stayed at the kitchen table holding her coffee but not drinking it. My father stepped outside for a while, pacing the yard the way he used to when he had something heavy on his mind. Daniel and I sat across from each other. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The second phone lay between us. It hadn't lit up again. That's not a good sign, I said finally. Daniel shook his head. No, he said, it usually means things have moved forward. Moved forward. That phrase had a way of sounding calm and controlled. But I could feel the weight behind it. What happens when things move forward, I asked. He looked at me carefully. People make decisions, he said. About what? About who they trust, he replied. I thought about that. Trust. It had been the quiet foundation of everything in my life. My family. My brother. Even Daniel. And now, It felt like something fragile. Something I hadn't protected the way I should have. The sound of the front door opening pulled me out of my thoughts. My father stepped back inside. He didn't say anything right away. Just closed the door, took off his jacket, and set it over the back of a chair. He called, he said finally. My heart jumped. When? A few minutes ago. Mark. He nodded. My mother looked up sharply. What did he say? She asked. My father hesitated. He asked if anyone had been to the house. I felt Daniel's attention shift beside me. What did you tell him? I asked. The truth, my father said. I said you were here. My breath caught. Dad. He deserved to know, he said. That's not the point, I said. You don't know who might be listening. I do know, he interrupted, his voice steady. I know he's my son. The room went quiet again. Daniel didn't step in. He let it play out. Did he say where he was? I asked. My father shook his head. No, but he said something else. What? He looked at me. He said you shouldn't get involved. I let out a short breath. That's not his decision. No, my father said quietly, it isn't. My mother pressed her hand against her mouth. He's scared, she said. I shook my head. Maybe I said, or maybe he's trying to control the situation. Control what? She asked. The story, Daniel said calmly. We all turned toward him. When people are under pressure, he continued, they try to shape what others see. Who knows what? Who doesn't? My father nodded slowly. That sounds like Mark, he admitted. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. So what are my options? I asked Daniel. He didn't answer right away. Tell me the truth, I said, not the safe version. He met my eyes. You can step back, he said. Let the investigation take its course. Protect yourself. And the other option? You can stay involved, he said, which means being part of what comes next. What comes next? My mother asked quietly. Daniel's expression didn't change. Consequences, he said. The word settled heavily in the room. I thought about Mark. About the boy who used to sneak out with me to watch fireworks by the river. The one who taught me how to ride a bike. The one who promised more than once that he'd always look out for me. And then I thought about the man who had stood at the bar last night checking his phone over and over again. Waiting. Hiding something. I want to talk to him, I said. My mother shook her head again. No, she said, that's a bad idea. It's the only idea, I replied. My father looked between us. He might call again, he said. Then I'll answer, I said. Daniel didn't object. That surprised me. You're okay with that? I asked. I'm okay with you making your own decision, he said. That was different. Not approval. Not permission. Just respect. I nodded. The phone on the table vibrated. All of us froze. It wasn't the second phone. It was my father's. He looked down at it slowly. Then at me. It's him, he said. I stood up. Put it on speaker, I said. My mother grabbed his arm. Please don't. It's already happening, I said gently. He answered the call. Mark. A pause. Then his voice came through. Clear. Tired. Familiar. Dad. My chest tightened. I'm here too, I said before I could stop myself. Another pause. Longer this time. I figured, Mark said. You knew I'd come home, I asked. I knew you wouldn't ignore it, he said. That sounded like him. Too much like him. Then stop telling me to stay out of it, I said. A quiet exhale on the other end. You don't understand what this is, he said. Then explain it to me. I can't. Or you won't. Silence. Then. Both. I closed my eyes for a second. Mark one said softer now, look at what this is doing to Mom, to Dad. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he said. That doesn't change where it is now. I was trying to fix things, he said, for all of us. There it is, Daniel said quietly under his breath. I ignored him. Fix what? I asked. The money, Mark said. The house. The bills Dad's been hiding. You think I didn't notice? I glanced at my father. He looked away. You should have talked to us, I said. And said what Mark shot back. That we were falling behind, that we needed help. Yes, I said, that's exactly what you should have said. It's not that simple. It never is, I replied. Another silence. Then his voice softened. I didn't do this to hurt you, he said. I know, I said. That was the hardest part. believing that, and still not accepting it. But you did, I added. The line went quiet. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted. I opened my eyes. That's because you can't fix it alone, I said. He didn't respond. And in that silence something shifted. Not solved. Not resolved. But acknowledged. I'm not going to lie for you, I said. I'm not asking you to. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. I know. I took a breath. But I'm not walking away either, I said. Another pause. Then, okay, he said. It wasn't agreement. It wasn't relief. But it was something. After the call ended, the house felt different. Still heavy. Still uncertain. But no longer silent. I looked at Daniel. He gave a small nod. You did what you needed to do, he said. Maybe. Or maybe I'd just taken the first step. Either way, there was no going back now. It didn't end that morning. Not the way people imagine things end clean, clear, tied up with a sentence or a decision. It unfolded. Slowly. Over weeks, then months. The investigation became public before it became personal. Names weren't released right away, but people in a small town don't need official statements to start connecting things. By the second week, neighbors had begun to ask questions. By the third, they had already decided on answers. My parents stopped going out as much. Church on Sundays became quieter. Fewer conversations, longer looks. No one said anything directly, not at first. But you could feel it. The distance. The uncertainty. And underneath it all, the quiet disappointment people carry when something familiar turns out to be something else. Mark turned himself in 10 days after the wedding. I didn't go with him. That was his choice. But I spoke to him the night before. We kept it simple. No accusations. No raised voices. Just truth. I wish you'd told me, I said. I wish I had, he replied. There was nothing left to argue about after that. Emily disappeared before any official statement mentioned her name. No one in town had seen her leave. No one knew where she went. Just like that, the person who had smiled beside my brother at the cake table was gone. It took time for that to sink in. Not the fact that she left, but the fact that she had never really been there in the way we thought she was. Daniel never said I told you so. He didn't need to. He stayed steady through it all, quiet, observant, letting me ask questions when I was ready and stepping back when I needed space. That mattered more than anything he could have explained. Some nights we'd sit on the porch outside my parents' house, the same one where I used to watch fireflies as a kid. And we'd talk. Not about the investigation. Not about the details. But about people. About how easy it is to miss things when you're not looking for them. And how hard it is to accept them when you finally are. I keep thinking about that night I told him once. The wedding. I nodded. I replay it in my head, I said. Every moment, every conversation, trying to find the exact second where I should have known. And do you, he asked. I shook my head. No, I said, because it wasn't 1 second. He didn't respond. He just let me keep going. It was 100 small ones, I said. Things that didn't seem important at the time. Things I explained away. I looked out into the yard. I thought not noticing meant I was trusting my family, I said. And now, he asked. I let out a slow breath. Now I think not noticing was just easier. The words felt heavy, but also honest. Inside the house, my mother moved around the kitchen. My father sat at the table reading the paper again like he always had. Some things hadn't changed, but the way we spoke to each other had. There were fewer assumptions now. More questions, more answers, even when they were uncomfortable. Mark called once a week. From where he was, conversations had to be brief, measured. But they were real. I should have stopped, he said during one call. Why didn't you? I asked. Because no one made me, he said. That stayed with me. Not as an excuse, but as a truth. We don't always become who we are on our own. Sometimes it's shaped by what the people around us allow, or ignore, or choose not to see. A few months after everything settled into its new normal, Daniel and I drove back past the reception hall. It looked smaller than I remembered. Quieter. Like it had returned to being just a building again. Do you regret leaving that night, he asked. I thought about it. About my mother calling after me. About the music still playing inside. About my brother laughing by the bar. I regret not seeing things sooner, I said. But leaving, he asked. I shook my head. No, I said. Leaving gave me the chance to understand. He nodded. That was enough. Before we drove away, I looked at the door one more time. And I remembered his voice. Leave, now. At the time, it felt like a warning. Now. It felt like the moment everything began to make sense. I didn't notice that night. Not the way I should have. But I notice now. And sometimes that's what matters. Not that we missed it, but that we choose not to miss it again. If you've ever looked back on a moment in your own life and realized the signs were there all along, you're not alone. Most of us don't see clearly when we're in the middle of something. We see clearly after. And that clarity, late as it may come, is still a chance to do better. To speak up. To ask questions. To protect the people we love not just with loyalty, but with honesty. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to reflect on the things you might have overlooked. And if it helped you see something a little more clearly, consider sharing it with someone who might need that same reminder. Because sometimes the quiet truths are the ones that matter most.